So we are back with part 2 of our earthing grounding episode with Clint Ober. If you haven't had a chance to listen to episode 34, I strongly suggest that you take a listen to it, look at the show notes, and there's tons of research and tons of things and tons of videos and articles that you can look at and watch to learn more about grounding. And in today's episode, episode 35, is about how you can ground. And I've been grounding for the past 2 years, and I'm actually sitting at my desk right now, my feet, with bare feet, on a grounding pad, and I don't think I'll ever go back. And in this episode, you'll kind of get a feel of why you should actually try it, because it is, at least it was for me, life-changing in terms of my sleep habits, in terms of inflammation, in terms of my ability to recover from sports injuries. So welcome and listen in and find out how you can ground yourself.
Welcome to the Practice Impossible podcast, where your host, Jude Pierre, MD, also known as Coach JPMD, discusses medical practice topics that will guide you through the maze that is the business of medicine and teach you how to increase profits and help populations live long. Your mission, should you choose to accept, is to listen and be transformed. Now, here's your host, Coach JPMD.
So we're back with Clint Ober, and we've been speaking about grounding. We've been speaking about the science behind it and the benefits. And today we have the opportunity of, again, discussing some of the things that you can do to ground. So, and how does one ground? And Clint, can you give us some examples of basic examples? Because I've actually recommended grounding to many of my patients, some of whom have diabetes. But the recurring theme is, I have diabetes and I'm not supposed to put my feet on the ground. Or in Florida, we have St. Augustine grass, which is really, yes. I don't know why they call it St. Grass, because it looks like a weed to me.
Right.
And they don't want to do it because they're ants. It's too hot. So how do we get patients to ground?
Well, first of all, it takes a little education. And all of my research, all of the things that I have spent the last 23 years on, the conclusion is one thing. And it's cowboy logic. And again, it comes from being in the grounding industry and the communications industry. You can't have charge in a grounded object. You can't. If it's grounded, it's flooded with free electrons. There can't be any charge.
Yeah.
So if the human body is grounded to the earth and at earth potential, you can't have inflammation in the body. You can have normal inflammatory cascades. You can have the normal functions of the immune system, but you don't have that chronic low-grade burning fire from not having enough electrons. So anyhow, it's really important to understand that people somehow or another learn that. And what I try to do with everybody is say, if you can't do anything else, it's free. You can go outdoors at the end of the day, go in the backyard. If you don't like the way it is, fix it so that you have a little patch where you can put a chair and sit your feet on the earth and just sit there and put your feet on the earth for 30 minutes. It's life-changing. It will change your life because what you do, the first thing that happens is your blood viscosity normalizes. And that's really major because the red blood cells themselves are electric. They have an electrical service charge as long as the wall linings and so on in the vessels. And so when you're grounded, you increase the negative charge of red blood cells. And so now they repel each other. Now it thins the blood. They can get in and out of the capillaries and reduce the inflammation and clean out the debris, all that kind of stuff, and balance the pH, everything. It all happens automatically. It's all one thing. But anyhow, in our studies, in order to learn all these things we learn, and all these studies are available at the Earthing Institute. But what we learned, we had to, first of all, create ground planes. Well, the easiest one for us was to take an EKG patch, put it on the palm of somebody's hand that had MS or whatever, and then connect it with a ground wire to an electrical ground. Mm-hmm. And we've actually done this with babies at the Hershey Clinic in Hershey, Pennsylvania, the preemies. Ground them to via the electrical ground. So it's totally safe, And so anyhow.
So let's speak about this totally safe, because you're saying to connect it to the ground wire outside. But let's say there's the thunderstorm outside and it's thundering and lightning, and you've got discharge of thunder and lightning in your backyard, let's say.
Yeah.
Can you then take some of that charge into the ground rod that's connected to the same earth that's being fed by the light?
Well, first of all, once it's on the earth, it at the speed of light radiates a radial disbursement at the speed of light around the world. So it's not going to take time to go and find a ground rod and go up the ground rod. And even if it did, it wouldn't do that because there's no place for it to go once it gets up the ground rod. The ground rod is the only ground rod is going to a human body, or it's going to a ground mat that a body is laying on. But you have to have a circuit.
Okay.
You have to have a path for electrons to flow. Where with grounding, all you're doing is equalization.
Mm-hmm.
You may have a rise in earth potential, but you're not going to have lightning screaming through, because it would burn up the wire, would evaporate the wire within a couple inches of the ground rod.
Okay.
Because it's very, very small. So lightning it's got to hit you first.
Mm-hmm.
Then go to the earth if you're grounded. That's the problem. But coming up the ground, that's not likely, because once it sets earth, that's what it's looking for. It's looking for a huge
capacitor. In electronics, I think ground would be a capacitor of that electron.
Yes. It stores them. It's a sink.
Mm-hmm.
It stores them.
Sink.
And so anyhow, what we had to do is we had to find ways in order to do the research, we had to find ways to ground people. And we would do anything, because in 30 minutes, you can take a lady who has MS or any kind of a chronic flaring,
inflammatory condition. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, and just put the patch on. 30 minutes later, it's going to put the fire out. For instance, with MS, you have neutrophils oxidizing, eating up the myelin sheath.
Mm-hmm.
You clean up one mess, and then there's just a constant collateral damage. So anyhow, I can honestly say now, after 23 years of doing this, and I don't know how many ladies with MS and lupus and the like, but you put a patch on the palm of their hand, and the pain will come down, their demeanor changes, their color comes up because of blood viscosity, and this all happens in minutes and half hour, because this is electrical. This isn't chemical. This is electrical. Everything in the body is, you're grounding the body, normalizing the internal functioning of the body. And most of all, you've got a reservoir of electrons to prevent collateral damage from an immune response. The immune system is unbelievable. I mean, it's simple in the beauty of, when we were all living on the earth and grounded, then we didn't think about it. It's like breathing oxygen. We didn't even need to know oxygen existed. You just it was automatic.
Yeah.
Well, grounding was automatic. It prevented oxidative stress in the body.
So if you can't have your feet on the ground, you don't want to have your feet on the ground, you're resistant.
Right.
You have some products. What are some of the things that you've developed, and are there patents on these products, or what have you developed?
Yeah, we had to patent them, but we share things pretty. The main thing is, when we were doing our studies, we had to have these ground planes in order to ground people long enough to measure the effects of grounding. Mm-hmm. And then as we were doing this, and we recognized that there's really profound benefits to grounding, then we recognized what is the number one thing we could do for most people that they would get the most benefit in the shortest amount of time and take the least amount of work. Mm-hmm. Because people don't like to break routine and have to do things. They don't want to, So anyhow, we thought, well, the best thing to do is ground people during sleep, because they're going to do that anyway. And all you got to do is put a mat on the bed and ground it to the earth via the grounded outlet or the whatever. And then all they have to do is lay down. And they do that one time, put it on the bed. Then after that, all they have to do is lay down, go to sleep like they normally do. And then the earth does all the rest. I mean, nature does the rest.
So what's in the pad? What's in the actual sheet? Because I'll admit, I bought a sheet. I looked at my Amazon account in 2020, and I've washed it several times, and it still conducts. And I actually have a continuity tester that is able to test. I'm geeking out on my audience right now, but it basically tests to make sure that the ground wire actually works in the sheet. And I have the best sleep every night using this thing. And it's not that I'm trying to promote this, but I just want people to understand that there is something to this, especially in sleep disorders.
It's really simple. The number one problem, the reason people can't sleep is they're in kind of a quasi fight or flight state and their body's pumping cortisol, stress of the day. And the cortisol, it's like having one eye open. It's like fight or flight. It's your fight or flight system. And so if you don't sleep, then the cortisol becomes elevated. That exhausts your parasympathetic, your adrenals, and then you have anxiety, irritability. That'll lead to eventually depression. But you end up with oxidation, inflammation that creates pain. Nobody can sleep if they have pain in their body or if they're stressed. So it's really so what grounding does, first of all, it reduces the pain, quiets the sympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic can come back up over a period of time, but you normalize blood viscosity so it can go in, clean out the inflammation, and all the hormone cascades that take place at night during sleep, they can function like they normally are intended. So, but anyhow, all these products, we had to invent these products in order to do the test. And then all the researchers and the subjects and their relatives, everybody wanted the products. So we ended up in an accidental business. My background is communication and putting data over satellites. It's not about making bed pets. The last thing I ever wanted to try to do was sell anybody anything. And I've told everybody in the world, I said, this is not a product. I'm not going to sell you this product. I'm going to explain it to you.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, and you can do your own studies. And it's free. Just go outdoors, take your shoes off, put your bare feet on the earth, stay there for 30 minutes. And if you feel a little bit better, then maybe do it for another 30 minutes later in the day. And then if you do it, if that makes you feel better, then you may want to consider spending more time on the earth or finding ways you can ground yourself indoors.
And you said it well. You said it well.
That's it.
That's really it. And, if you live on the beach, you put your feet on the sand. I had someone tell me that day they go to the beach, but they put their sandals on. I'm like, no, take your sandals off at the beach, because that's the only way you're going to ground. Yeah.
It's hard for people to make the change and to incorporate something new. So I do my best to stay with kids. I made a statement the other day to somebody. I said, I spent 20 years educating working on this, and most of the people I worked with were over 50, 60s, so on. And today, most of them are dead, because most of them don't stay with it. The pain goes away and then they give it up, But anyhow, so I try now. I only work with moms 35 to 40 years old because they're taking care of their moms. As soon as they get grounded, it works for them. Then they give it to their mom who needs it worse than they do. And then they get another one for themselves. Then they give that to their sister or whoever. And then the average woman who gets grounded, she buys 10, 12 of these pads in the first year, just taking care of her family.
So why you mentioned moms? Why not dads? Where are the dads?
I hate to say this, but 80% of women sleep alone.
Okay.
Now, as a physician, you may know that. The reason is because of pain. And when a woman's in pain and she's not happy or feeling good, it produces more cortisol, whatever. But it's like, I hate to say this publicly, but it's like autism. Once an autistic child shows up in the family, it's like, do not collect $200, go directly to jail because that family is going to jail. There's no insurance code. There's nothing anybody can help them. And eventually, it's really a trauma and a drama, and it's just a challenge, and it's very worrying. And oftentimes, the family ends up with a divorce. That's one of the major things out there. Otherwise, it's the woman herself has fibromyalgia, starts out as anxiety, irritability, then fibromyalgia, and then lupus, then MS or whatever, chronic arthritis. It's all one thing. It's chronic inflammation because they don't feel good. So when you don't feel good, that pumps more cortisol. That you become more stressed. You become more angry. You become less hospitable.
Mm-hmm. So you're really hitting something that I wasn't aware of. And earlier you said that 98% of the people who buy the products are women.
Oh yes.
what would be the one thing that you could tell a physician or tell a male physician or a male that could convince them to get this? Well, what do you think is the issue, the block?
There's no man, there's no red-blooded man going to say, oh, yeah, I want one of those. I believe everything you're saying. You can say, this is nuts. He said, if this were true, I would know about it. Mm-hmm. It's the same. It's been the same for 20 years. Men, it's an ego. It's a slap in the face because men are supposed to know everything. So women are the ones who buy these products. They sneak it into the bed underneath the sheet under their husbands and get them get them to quit snoring and whatever, all those things. But yeah, it's a cultural thing. It's moms are, they're looking for anything that will help them. It's like this whole wellness industry and this integrative and this alternative and everything goes on out there. What is it? 80% of all prescriptions are female. Men don't buy drugs and take them. Show that, man, no pain, no gain. Anyhow, I could go on because I spent really 23 years grounding people. Uh-huh. Sometimes one-on-one, sometimes 1,500 people at a time, 3-day conventions, just so they can experience. But the thing I've learned is you cannot accept earthing, I don't care who you are, until you experience it, because it's unbelievable. It's absurd. You tell me you want me to take my shoes off and go stand barefoot on the earth? Are you nuts? I'll get my feet dirty.
So maybe we could do some psychological research on this.
That's the big thing that needs to be done. Yeah. Because grounding will put the fire out. But what's feeding these fires? Mm-hmm. It's mental.
It's mental, yeah. So what are some of the ongoing research that you're doing now? Are there any ongoing studies that you're enrolling patients in?
Yeah, they're doing some studies on mitochondria and ATP and things like that, which is pretty straightforward. But again, you have to go through the processes.
Yeah.
What I've done the last few years is we pretty much don't do too many studies ourselves anymore. Mm-hmm. Instead, if somebody's doing a PhD or somebody who wants to do a study, universities don't do studies unless there's money in it. They're not going to give you money unless they're going to make money off of it. So they want to own the patents or they want to own, the business side of it. It's the way it works. It's just the way it works. This is a self-care, health assurance, not insurance, because there's no such thing as health insurance, really. But health assurance means you need to put your feet back and you need to reconnect to the earth, get rooted in nature from where you come, who you are, and find the ways to incorporate that into your living environment and your lifestyle. Because if you don't, there's fire inside. But so anyhow, what I spend most of my time is, we've got the Earthing movie we put out about 3 years ago. And that took about 4 or 5 years to build. And it's just 100% authentic, just grounding people. And they're telling their stories, sharing their experiences, and to give a lot of people, to perk people's interest so that they will at least go outdoors and try it. Yeah. But the business I'm in is education. I'm not in the business of bed pads, and I'm not in the business of research. I'm in the business of shaking the tree, getting researchers to pay attention, getting moms to hear something that can help you. That's what I do. And
we so appreciate it, because that's how I found you, and I watched the movie. I've actually recommended the movie several times. Some of my patients I actually have listened. So obviously we're going to share that in the show notes as well. Yeah. So what's next for you? Like, what's your next, what are the next steps for you?
Well, I'll be 78 here in a couple of weeks. I didn't know anybody could live this long back when I was 50, but I have good energy. Of course entropy is real, no matter how good your health is. But anyhow, I don't have any real health issues at all. I eat halfway decent. I'm grounded probably 80% of the time. And I think that speaks to my health. But anyhow, so really from here on, all I can do is anybody that's interested, ask me a question and I'll share what I know.
That's wonderful.
It's really about sharing. And it's, earthing is free. The results are phenomenal or profound. and it's free. And any practitioner, if you can get people, trying to sell them a product may be beyond your ability to accomplish, but you are going to have better outcomes on whatever you're doing if you can just get them to go outdoors and drain the stress, the inflammation, the charge out of their body for 30 minutes after they get home from work and a stressful day and the cortisol's high. And then they're going to feel better. They're going to just put the fire out. And the immune system can't do much in 30 minutes, but if you can put the fire out and do that routinely, that's cumulative. But you're going to sleep better. You're going to feel better. And then, people don't buy products because I tell them anything. They go outdoors and they put their bare feet on the earth. And if they have a good experience, then they say, I don't want to do this. So maybe I better get one of those products.
Yeah. You're saying it right. I mean, it's sharing the story, sharing your experiences. And that's what I wanted you to do today. That's what I wanted to do to my audience and, or with my audience. And it's, again, an honor to have you on the show. And, how do we find you? How does our audience find you? And what's the best place to find out more about your book and in the movie?
TheEarthingInstitute.net.
Okay.
It's kind of a repository of all of that stuff. I interact daily on a Facebook page or share information just under my name, Clint Ober. Earthing.com is a company that provides the products. They have bed pads. They have that you can sleep on. They have pillow covers that you put over your pillow, and you can even put your pillowcase over the top of it, and you sleep on that. There's many reasons that's really, a lot of people love that product. The patches are great for flaring, anything arthritic, itis, anything that's itis. Diabetes is an inflammation-related health disorder. It's in the literature. Autism is an inflammation-related health disorder. All of this. So if you have a health issue, I can tell you this for sure after 23 years, and also I knew this with the cows. If you have a health problem, if you have pain in your body, then something you're doing is compromising your immune system to the degree that the immune system can't restore and maintain health. So you have to start removing the things from your body or adding things or whatever. You have to figure out what's causing my immune system. How come I don't have health? Is my most natural state. How come I don't have health? Is it what I'm eating? Not alone. Is it what I'm breathing? Not alone. It's a whole bunch of things. But it starts with sunlight, vitamin D, sunlight, oxygen, good clean O2, and ground, maintaining the electrical stability of the body, stabilizing your heart rate variability and your vagal tone. That's automatic. Just put your feet on the earth.
Yeah. It's wonderful. What a great conversation. And I appreciate you coming on to the Practice Impossible podcast. And I know that my audience is going to, we're going to start grounding. We're going to have a grounding movement in Tampa.
There you go. I'm all for it. Well, you got the perfect place too.
Yeah.
It's really nice there. I lived down in Key Largo for a couple of years.
Nice.
I just love Florida.
Thank you again. And right. We'll see you soon.
All right. Namaste.
Namaste. So thank you for listening to the Practice Impossible podcast. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for sharing this episode. And if you haven't done so yet, don't forget to listen to episode 34. And there are plenty of other episodes as well. And yes, we're teaching physicians not only the business of medicine, but also how to practice living a powerful life, a healthy life. And that's what we do here at the Practice Impossible podcast. Our next episode is going to be a pretty neat one, and that's with my own medical assistant. And you're going to learn some things that I learned from her, the things that have inspired me to continue doing what I'm doing, and hopefully it will inspire you as well. So see you in 2 weeks, and keep practicing impossible.